So, hello and welcome to ESPN Cricket Info Stump Mike. I'm Karthik Iyer, and this is our final set of previews with the two teams that will play on Monday. The Rajasthan Royals versus the Punjab Kings. Punjab Kings, of course, it's a new name for what was earlier known as the Kings 11 Punjab. With me today, as he was in our Bangalore preview, is Varun Shetty. Welcome, Varun.
Hello, Karthik. Nice to be back.
And along with Varun on this podcast is Jofra Archer's biggest fan. He's very, very upset that he isn't here this season until now, at least. Saurabh Somani.
Thanks, Karthik. Hi, Varun. And you're absolutely right. I am very upset.
All right, so let's get right into it. Let's get right into the Rajasthan Royals. They let go of Stephen Smith from last season, a fair decision, but they now don't have Jofra Archer. This is something that they probably didn't expect. They don't have him. They're saying for at least 4 games, but in these times, in COVID times, and he's back home in England, we really can't say when Jofra will be back. I think you cannot overstate how big a loss this will be for the Royals.
Yeah, I mean, to put it in another way, I don't think any player being removed from any other team would cause as big a hole as Jofra's absence causes in Rajasthan Royals. I mean, not just the fact that he was MVP last year and he was bowling like a dream, hitting sixes for fun. Not he really lifted the team. I know they finished last eventually, but it was the most competitive IPL ever last year, and they could have. I mean, they were 2 points from finishing fourth. So, and they were dragged up there by Jofra, as per me. Butler didn't have like a blockbuster season. Stokes came to life only at the end, and Smith was very up and down, and for so much that he was let go. And there, Rahul Tewatia, of course, gave us the moment of the IPL, but Jofra was the guy just carrying them, and he's just such a joy to watch. To watch him bowl even 4 overs in a T20 match is just amazing. I love it, and yeah, it's a real sad thing that we won't be seeing him, and that at least 4 matches is what worries me because the way I read it is it's actually likely to be a lot more than four, and that's why they're saying at least four.
Yeah, yeah. I guess you have to give Royals fans some hope, right? And for all of us, I'm sure that we hope that Archer can be fit enough to come into IPL 2021 at some stage.
And most importantly, I hope Jofra Archer is more careful around his fish tank, which is where
Mm.
his injury originated. I wonder if IPL players have some sort of an insurance deal there to do with fish tanks.
This is very. I mean, all my favorite sports persons get these kind of injuries. Roger Federer injured himself while giving his kids a bath. Jofra Archer injured himself while cleaning his fish tank. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, this could be in one of our lists of. I don't know. In cricket, do we have these lists of freak injuries? I'm sure we do because there are plenty in football. I'm sure we do. Otherwise, this is something that we should commission at Cricket Info. One of these lists of freak injuries that occur. Varun, in the auction, Rajasthan Royals went and spent 16.25 crore. Which is the highest ever, most amount of money spent at an IPL auction ever. This was done on Chris Morris, of course. This was done before they knew that Jofra Archer would be hurt or would be missing in any sort of way. Now, does Chris Morris come in and do that Archer role?
No, I don't think he is any.
Because he can't, right?
I mean, for one thing, he probably was, like you said, someone they picked to complement Archer in that bowling. As a leader of the bowling himself, obviously he will not come anywhere close to Jofra, who just is a completely different bowler. Uh, I do think it will be a struggle for Rajasthan early on. I know Morris has gone for all that money, but he's primarily someone you spend the money on for death bowling. Uh, One of the things Rajasthan did well last year was their new ball bowling, and Jofra was sort of the hinge of that. They will miss that for sure. I don't think Chris Morris plays quite the same role, and now he'll have to play that sort of a role because you look at that roster and the other overseas bowling options, at least for fast bowlers, are Andrew Tai, who's been sort of hit and miss in the IPL, and Mustafizur, who hasn't played in the IPL for quite a while. So, um, Chris Morris as the leader of your attack, I don't know. I mean, he can prove us all wrong, but uh, that isn't the ideal T20 bowling lineup that you'd have with Chris Morris leading the attack.
You don't see Mustafizur maybe regaining some of that form. Remember those Sunrisers Hyderabad, that one season where he was special.
Yeah, he's a very good limited overs bowler, no doubt. But like Somani mentioned at the start, there's no real impact from losing another player in any other team apart from maybe say RCB losing someone like De Villiers. That is, it just doesn't match up when you try to fill that gap with someone like Mustafizur or even Chris Morris. So yeah, you might get a nice sort of a couple of games from Mustafizur. He has variations that will really work in India, but it won't quite fill up the hole that Jofra has left.
Fair enough. Saurabh, we have begun this podcast, and if you're a Royals fan listening to it on kind of a somber note, so let's just lift it up. Yeah, they've spent so much money on Chris Morris. What qualities does he bring to the table, and can he bring to this Royals 11? Because I'm pretty sure that he's going to start every game that he is available for.
Yeah, I'm certain he's going to start every game that he's available for. He brings, see, he does bring in some amount of bowling control, which last year they lacked. Like last year, Jofra was doing it, and nobody else was backing him up. Now it's sort of like Chris Morris will have to do it. He's not in the Jofra class as a bowler, but he's still very good. Last year, he had the best death overs economy of any bowler who had bowled at least 20 balls. And as for the Royals fans, one thing that could cheer them up is how RCB let him go. I'm sorry, Varun, but yeah, I mean RCB digs have to be taken at in every podcast. They paid 10 crores for him, and then they were willing to bid 9.75 to retain him. I don't know in what universe that makes sense, but RCB is RCB. Yeah, and they let him go, and I think their bowling has a lot of problems. So Royals fans, if nothing else, misery loves company. Yeah, you can point and laugh. And, but yeah, so Chris Morris is going to have to do the role that Jofra was doing to the best that he can. He'll also have to do the same batting role that Jofra was doing, which is come and hit some sixes, which I think he's perhaps more in the Jofra class. I think he belts them a long way, just like
he,
Jofra
he,
does.
he would be better than Jofra Archer as a batsman.
I mean, I have a bias towards Jofra Archer, so
Hmm. Hmm. I mean, I don't think Jofra Archer and Chris Morris are the same, league as batsman. Morris is far. He's a proper all rounder, yeah, at the international level, in
I'll let that one go. Okay.
fact.
Until Jofra scores a 20 ball 100, and then we'll talk.
Mm,
So,
fair enough.
so yeah, so he'll be having to do that same sort of thing, come lower down, maybe with 1 or 2 overs left, and give the ball a good, mighty whack.
Another player who played for RCB last season and who'll be with the Royals this season, Varun, is Shivam Dubey. They spent quite a bit of money on him. A bit of a surprise?
No, not a surprise. We sort of expected Dubey to bring in the bucks because all rounders are at a premium. If you're a domestic player, you're at more of a premium. It makes sense, and it is Dubey's best format. It is a role he plays really well. The money wasn't surprising, but like I'm thinking about Dubey in this squad, and I feel like he would have been a much better fit in last year's squad with Smith up there, and I'll throw in Robin Uthapar to that mix. Essentially, 4 or 5 players at the top who are sort of steady going, who are more or less all very similar in some sense, just barring Butler. Shivam Dubey would have complemented them really well in that lineup. In this one, I think he'll have a little more responsibility, which he does take for Mumbai at the domestic level. So it's not like he's new to this role. But I'd like to see how he goes about that. I imagine he'll be batting 5 or 6, which is where he bats. But I don't know about uh, when he comes in, how early he comes in, and how he does under pressure when wickets are down, which was one of the issues last year. So, no, not surprising. The price he went for, he uh, much the same as Mustafizur has sort of bowling variations that work in these conditions. Uh, he provides decent value, so it would be interesting to see how he goes.
Yeah, the release of Stephen Smith from Rajasthan Royals meant that, Saurabh, Sanju Samson is their captain. And I think we're 10 minutes into the podcast and we've skipped talking about Samson and how he will perform as a captain. Now, you and Varun watch a lot more domestic cricket than probably anybody else even listening to this podcast. What qualities can Samson bring? Firstly, has led before in this format or on any other at the domestic level, and what will he bring to Rajasthan, and how is he different from Smith in that same role?
I'm not sure how much he has led. If he has, it won't be a lot. The He has led Kerala on and off earlier. He's always had a sort of tempestuous relationship with Kerala cricket. So and I remember this Sanju Samson himself told me once long back that he always does better when he's happier, and that I and he said he found that playing under Rahul Dravid for the India A teams, and then earlier when Rahul Dravid was with Rajasthan Royals, and before he started shouting, "I'm the Gunda of Indranagar." So 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 he
Topical joke there by Saurabh, because we're recording about what, half an hour after probably Rahul Dravid's most famous ad has released.
true, most famous by far. He was angrier than when he threw that cap. So
Yeah, I mean, the start was at Rajasthan, never forget.
yes, true. They lit the spark. But yeah, so Sanju Samson always said that, playing under Rahul Dravid always brought out the best in him because it was a team atmosphere in which he could flourish better. Now, making him the captain obviously means there is a lot more onus on himself to create that team atmosphere, which could work for him actually, because we don't know how well he thrives under responsibility so much. But if he's the kind of guy who clicks better when the externals are taken care of, then this might just help him. And there's no doubting Sanju Samson's talent, of course. Nobody has seen him hit those straight shots, will ever doubt that. But he's not been consistent. That's also a fact. So yeah, some people, they get the captaincy and their game goes up a gear. And let's hope that happens with Sanju Samson because he's great to watch when he's in full flow.
Last year, Rajasthan Royals, at least on paper, it was claimed by many, possibly including me, that among the 8 foreigners that they had, Barun, there was a clear difference between the four of Smith, Butler, Stokes, and Archer, and the others. Is it the same case this year? Will we see Morris, Stokes, and Butler as absolute certainties in that 11?
Yeah, it's going to be exactly that. The only difference is Morris brings more weight at the back end of their batting. That will be the case. I really feel for someone like David Miller, who's been at the franchise for 2 or 3 years. I think he got one match last season and he was run out without facing a ball. My memory might be failing me, but I think that happened last season. We just don't see enough of the others. The other batsman in their roster is Liam Livingston, also very good at this format. Prefers to bat at the top, but like last year, there's no spots up in the top at Rajasthan. So yeah, this will be very much dominated by Stokes, Butler, Morris, and Archer when he's back. That'll be the case this year as well. And the way this team is set up, it can't be any other way because the spots in the middle that are sort of susceptible for them are still in the middle order, where I think the average age of batsmen is like 20 or 21 or something. Very inexperienced guys, exciting but inexperienced guys.
Yeah, you say exciting, and I cannot stop thinking about Rian Parag. Yeah, for some reason he just gives me that superstar vibe, or a superstar to be vibe.
Yeah, Rian Parag is vibe is the right word because I think we asked him in an interview what he's learned over the last year, cricket or non-cricket, and his answer was farm mill. So, so Riyan Parag is quite the vibe. He said he enjoys the bubble because he's a gamer. So he's in a very good headspace. Clearly, he's exciting.
I'll tell you what, he's going to probably miss Jofra Archer the most.
Yeah, that his gaming partner gone. But yeah, he's 19. Yashasvi Jaiswal is 19. We have Anuj Rawat who's 21, and Mahipal Lomro are also 21, I think. So, the bulk of their middle order is still very much looking the same as it was last year. Like, that's one part I suppose they didn't majorly improve. you can't really like majorly improve one spot, one side of the squad if you spend 16 crore on one player, of course. Uh, but yeah, that's the sort of the phase of the innings where it'll be a little bit troublesome again, I think, unless one of these two or three or four youngsters like really have a breakthrough season.
All right. Sort of among this Rajasthan Royals side, if you had to pick out one domestic and maybe one foreign player who are going to stand out this season, you can pick two domestic also if you want, because I think we know who the obvious candidates are among the foreign internationals. I mean, any of us, I can say Butler, you can say Stokes, and Varun can say Morris. For Rajasthan, I think it's pretty simple that way. But if one or two domestic talents in the Royal squad who you think will stand out this season, because I think a fair few of them will get their chances in that 11.
True. And picking two domestic players is a good idea. I think I would go for Rahul Tewatia. He was picked for the Indian team, didn't clear his yo-yo test and all. But he showed what he was capable of last year.
If I can interrupt you there, but Saurabh, and I asked this question about Varun Chakravarti as well. I said because that happened, and then the entire issue with fitness that he didn't clear the test. It happened with Varun. Is that a big, big, big dent on your confidence? Because it's all happening publicly. It's almost a bit humiliating.
I think just having watched that incredible match of Tewatia at Sharjah, nothing can dent his confidence. If he can mid innings overcome that sort of slump and turn it around in the fashion that he did, then I'm not worried about his mental headspace. I think he'll be fine. I mean, I'm reaching. I have no expertise in this, but it's just the way he was able to do that was so incredible that it just fills me with confidence that he can, brush off setbacks.
Yeah, but more than anything else, I think the system is very clear in India right now, and the management is, I suppose, very frank with these players. Especially if you're sort of at the fringes of the national team, there's just going to be like you have to be relentless. So I think the cricketers get that message as well. No one who does that well and reaches that far is going to get bogged down. I think at that point.
I guess it's more, Varun, the narrative that you see on social media and everyone mocking you, and all of these guys go online, right?
Yeah, it's fair
and
enough.
and, and it's known to then everyone that you had this one chance, man. You had one chance to play for India, to get in that squad, and you mess it up on something that should be a basic requirement. It's not a good look.
I don't know if he's looking at it as you had that one chance. What if he has
Hmm.
an
Hmm.
outstanding IPL? He'll get more chances.
Yeah, yeah, which is why you've picked him as one of your players to
Yeah,
watch.
yeah, and I mean, he's an exciting guy. He's full of possibilities. And my second guy is actually who Varun mentioned, Anuj Rawat. He had a good domestic season. I would have said Yashasvi Jaiswal, but he had a fairly ordinary Vijay Hazare trophy, so I'm not sure where his form is at. And of course, last year in the IPL, he struggled a bit. So I'm looking forward to see how Anuj Rawat does. Exciting young batsman.
Varun, who do you have your eyes on?
Oh, I was also going to name Rawat, but just looking down that list, I think I'm going to be very interested to see how Shreyas Gopal goes. India's limited overs sort of wrist spinner options right now are a little wonky. Shreyas Gopal's been around. He's been sort of in the reckoning. His name floats around. He plays for India A, things like that. Uh, Maybe a 25 wicket season this time, just before the World Cup starts, could really push him up.
That's a very good point. There's a slot there. There's definitely a slot there, especially with Kuldeep pretty much not in the running and Chahal's recent drop.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, he's a good fielder. He brings batting in there. So there is a slot. I mean, he could be, in fact, directly in competition with Tewatia for that spot. So I'd be very interested in looking at him. Another player, I mean, if we're still naming only domestic players, is Manan Vora. I think he's going to be at least in a couple of games opening for them this season, unless they decide to give Yashasvi a longer rope. Vora's obviously not played a lot in recent times in the IPL. I mean, he is, if I'm not mistaken, Saurabh, he's with Chandigarh, right?
Yeah, yeah, he moved.
Yeah, yeah. So he's been doing really well there after moving from Punjab. Uh, and he's only 27. I mean, you remember Manan Vora as the guy Kings 11 had retained all those years
Yeah,
ago. Over
you're right. I'm looking at the squad and I was like 27. Wait, do we need to get in touch with someone to correct his age?
yeah, yeah. So there's a bit left in Manan Vora. With Chandigarh, of course, there is a sort of bias in domestic cricket when you're from one of the smaller teams. You're not looked at in the same lens as some of the other players. So this could be sort of a coming back into the mainstream for him. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes. I think he could certainly provide a little more solidity than Uttapa did last year, and that's the spot he'll be taking. So excited to see how Vora goes.
All right, quickly, Varun, yes or no? Rajasthan Royals finished last season. They were eighth. Of course, they weren't the first side to be out of contention for the playoffs, but they ended up finishing eighth. Will they do better this time? Can they at least compete for those playoff spots?
I don't think so. I don't think they've solved a lot of issues that they had last season. They've just sort of altered the balance. It's not as top heavy as last season. It's still sort of better in the lower order, I guess, but their biggest challenge will be still how their bowlers do, and their domestic bowling doesn't look very inspiring to me right now.
Saurabh, does the answer to that question depend simply on how fast Jofra Archer can come back?
See, he's going to miss 4 games at least, so I don't see them finishing anything other than bottom.
Okay, all right. It's not looking too good for the Rajasthan Royals, but maybe the side can surprise Varun and Saurabh and everyone else like they did in the inaugural season of the IPL. Now from the Rajasthan, we'll move on to their opponents on the first Monday of IPL 2021. The newly christened Punjab Kings. Now I'm going to start immediately, yeah, with you, Varun. Punjab Kings. They brought in the world's best T20 batsman as per their rankings, David Malan. They have Chris Gale there. And Chris Gale, you remember last season, he wasn't starting the first few games, and KL Rahul had to go out every time and answer this question in the pre-match during the toss, etc., etc. Does Gale just fit right in, and then you figure out whether you need Malan or not?
Yeah, I think that's exactly how it'll be. In any case, like there's more of a chance of both Gale and Malan playing together rather than Malan playing ahead of Gale. It's just a no-brainer. It would be a very brave captain and coach who would pick Malan over Chris Gale right now. Particularly because we saw KL Rahul play that sort of an anchor role, which is very similar to what Malan does in T20s as well. I mean, it'll be one of the things to watch out for is whether Rahul plays a similar way. But I do not see Malan playing ahead of Gale. Maybe lower down the order because they bought Moses Enriquez for his experience. I think he just won the Big Bash as well. Enriquez and Malan might be, sort of fighting for one spot in case one of Gale or Puran is injured. So no, I don't think Malan's pretty high up in that pecking order for their batsmen. In fact, I would say Enriquez is ahead of him.
Wow. Okay. So we look at it from last year, and it's going to be probably a similar top four. Saurabh, you start with KL Rahul, you have Mayank Agarwal there, you have Chris Gale, and then Nicholas Puran. On paper, that still looks very, very, very scary.
It definitely does, but it only looks scary if Rahul can somehow unlock version 2018 of himself. Because version 2020 didn't help anyone, least of all Kings 11 Punjab, as they were called then. I think Rahul, I mean, there's no doubt he's capable of it, and he has enough batting depth to follow in the form of, if you have a Gale and Puran coming after you and you're opening alongside someone like Mayank Agarwal, who's himself been terrific, you can afford to unleash a little bit. And the Rahul that is free flowing, I think, is if he unlocks that version of himself, then I actually think Punjab Kings might have the best shot of any team of beating Mumbai Indians.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay, this was a question we actually asked yesterday during the Mumbai Indians preview, and a lot of them were actually going with Varun's franchise, Royal Challengers Bangalore, and I think that was a fair shout. But okay, give me a reason now, because I think this is one of the common threads in this entire season. Can all teams put together, who among them can stop the three-peat, right? Because Mumbai seem to be in a league of their own. So why do you think that Punjab, is it because they've added to their bowling, which we'll
yes,
get to?
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Because of the additions they have made, so they have on paper they could get a squad that is not as complete as Mumbai Indians as an 11 that the Mumbai Indians can put out, but it has these. X factor sort of guys who can uh, do things to disrupt Mumbai Indians. Like if a Nicholas Puran gets going, or even KL Rahul, Mayank Agarwal, and I really wish they play Fabian Allen, who, as you know, I'm almost as big a fan of as Jofra Archer. He's I think he could be, the next Andre Russell type of guy, or Kieran Pollard sort of, that sort of T20 superstar, which
Woo! That wow, that's some pressure on Fabian Allen, sort of.
I hope he doesn't listen to this, but yeah. But no, I really think, okay, maybe, I mean, I don't want to get carried away. Also, maybe I'm not good as far as Andre Russell, but he could be sort of in that mold, not necessarily do things like Andre Russell, but maybe 80% or something, 75% of that. So, and one of the things is that Punjab Kings lacked last year is firepower at the back end in the batting, and that was one of the reasons why Rahul batted the way he did. So now, if you get a guy like Fabian Allen, and they've got Shah Rukh Khan also this time, so if you have those two guys at 6-7, then you have much more license for Rahul to go hard at the top. And you have Rahul and Mayank Agarwal, Gale, Puran, and then these, heavy hitters to come at the back end, that can really be a batting lineup that sets or chases down any target. And because of their bowling, now they've brought in Jai Richardson and Riley Meredith. So that certainly adds some firepower, because last year it was sort of in the pace bowling, it was Shami, and then a smattering of people with a smattering of performances. So now, if you have at least one of the two, Jai or Meredith, to pick from, one of them will. I mean, I expect Jai to start above Riley Meredith because he can bat a bit. So if Jai Richardson is there and Shami is there, and then you've got these other bowlers who are competent enough, to be a support cast. So you've got the makings of a really good 11, and that is why I feel like, if any team has a chance to do that, I like, and particularly because of their batting lineup, if any team has a chance to, hit even a Jasprit Bumrah away, it could be Kings 11. Sorry, Punjab Kings.
Punjab Kings, indeed. That's a good segue. Actually, they've gotten Meredith and they've gotten Jai Richardson. Varun, you of course spoke to Damien Wright recently, who is the bowling coach of the Punjab Kings. What did he tell you about these two fast bowlers? Because clearly bowling was their weakness last season.
Yeah,
And sort of, for the sake of Saurabh, I'm going to say KL Rahul strike rate as well.
strike rate is overrated. I think that's the tattoo on KM Rahul's program. But what Damien Wright told me essentially was pretty much what we all know. He said that was the area they were looking at, the especially the back end of the bowling. I asked him what he thinks of Jai Richardson, and he said the thing with Jai is that he bowls the difficult overs, and what happened with the BBL last year, of course, is they sort of got innovative and added these phases, the power surges and whatnot, and that added an extra dimension of tough overs in the sense that the batting team would take a power play in the second half of the innings. And Damon Wright essentially spoke about how Jai had to bowl the power play overs up at the top and in the middle when the batting team took it, and at the death. So three sort of difficult over phases that he excelled at. And also obviously something that Punjab desperately needed last year. So he's going to lead the attack alongside Shami. I don't think there's any doubt in that. With Riley Meredith, from what I gauged from that conversation with Damien was Meredith might be used as something of an enforcer in the middle overs, uh, alongside the spinners, a fast bowler to come and you know take a couple of wickets and derail the innings in case someone is set, things like that. There are question marks, I guess, about how Meredith will do at the death. He's not someone who has a lot of variations like Jai Richardson. But from what I gauge from that conversation, they're very excited and looking forward as much as is possible with the combination to play both of them together. Uh, he also said that he also like obviously spoke. a lot of Chris Jordan, who I think, at least in the early stages of the tournament, will start ahead of Riley because he's someone they like to slot in at number seven, and he provides a lot more roles than just his bowling. I don't personally not a fan of that. If you're having someone at seven, I would have Allen over Jordan. But it certainly seems like uh, they got exactly what they wanted at the auction with the fast bowlers, and they might use that quite heavily through the season. They know they're stacked is the word he used. They know they're stacked, so that is a big strength for them, and we might see a lot more, uh, you know, wickets bounced out and things like that this season from Punjab.
They do have a lot of overseas talent. I mean, you look at the eight names there: Fabian Allen, Moses Enriques, Chris Gale, Nicholas Puran, David Malan, Chris Jordan, Jai Richardson, and Riley Meredith. Varun, you also named quite a few of them. I think you named more than four in an 11, but if you had to pick just four, maybe for the starting few games, who would you go to? Who's the best four foreign talent that will fit into Punjab Kings at this moment in time?
For me, it would be Gale, Puran, Jai Richardson, and Fabian Allen.
Ah, okay. Saurabh?
Exactly the same as Varun, Gale, Puran, Fabian Allen, and Jai Richardson. But I would want them to consider that in case Gale is not having a great season, or if he's not looking good or something, they have the option of bringing in an Indian batsman. Like because only one out of Deepak Huda, Mandeep Singh, or Sarfaraz Khan might play, so they have the option of bringing in another of these guys, and then that opens up a spot to have a bowling attack that has both Jai and Meredith.
All right. So we've spoken a lot about Punjab Kings as overseas talent and about Mayank and KL at the top. But who else can catch our eye during this season among the Indian talent in particular? Saurabh, we'll start with you.
I'm keen to see how Ravi Bishnoi goes. He made a good impression last year, but he's young, and the second season is always a tougher test when teams have had time to figure you out, study your video replays, and make.
Is he also in that same boat where he may have an outside chance for India, or is it too much of a stretch?
I would think right now it's a little bit of a stretch, but if he has like a sudden blockbuster IPL, then who knows? But right now, I would not think he's on the radar as such for the national team. But there's no doubt that he has the talent to someday be there. He because he's been great at the under 19 level, and then he came and did well at the IPL. And so I'm keen to see how he goes in his second season, whether he has added some tricks, whether he has learned to vary his pace more, or yeah, stuff like that.
You think KL Rahul can, because you said that you wanted to see the 2018 version again, but after seeing him, he's not had the best of time. To put it very frankly, in Indian colors of late. Do you think he can recover that form, or will we see another circumspect season from Rahul?
No, I think he can because weirdly enough, in one-day cricket, where that sort of anchoring might
Yeah.
might pay more dividends, he almost bats like I would want him to bat in a T20 match, especially when he gets into the groove. Clearly he can still do it. It's not like he's lost the ability. So yeah, why not? And I hope, yeah, if they pick the sort of 11 that I am hoping to see, then definitely it gives him more incentive to also go harder at the top.
I'm keen to see Arshdeep Singh. I think he flew under the radar, but he was, I think, at least I think apart from Shami, their best fast bowler last season. He's going to play a lot this season because, like we mentioned, they're very keen on playing two fast bowlers as their overseas players. So he's going to play a role. If we see the likes of Fabian Allen or Enriquez getting into the team, then in the balance they'll have to bring in a fast bowler, and that fast bowler is going to be Arshdeep Singh. So I'm excited to see how he goes. He's such a smart bowler. Uh, I don't think he got the kind of recognition that he deserved last season because in a bowling apart that was just sorry, in a bowling lineup that was falling apart all the time. He seemed to be in control at all times. He seemed to have two or three plans. He has a wide yorker. He has an off cutter. I don't know about his bouncer at this point, but he at least seemed to be trying to regain control in some sort, and he did a decent job at that. So exciting to see what he'll do this season. Another bowler, domestic bowler on their roster is Saurabh Kumar, who I've followed in domestic cricket for a couple of years. An absolute superstar in domestic cricket, one of Uttar Pradesh's main cricketers. Uh, Smart, controlled left arm spin. I know occasionally Kings 11 Punjab, as they used to be known, used to try out left arm spinners with guys like Harpreet Brar, and Suchit would usually get a game or two every season. So I think they might give him a run out, and it'll be good to see if he can scale up from domestic cricket, where he's one of the top bowlers right now.
So last year for what was then called the Kings 11 Punjab, Glenn Maxwell took a lot of the print space. Yeah, Saurabh. Something tells me that this year, Nicholas Puran, I mean, we know that he's a special talent. I don't know. I just get this feeling that he's going to own it this season.
I think it would be great to watch if he owns it because he's a fabulous guy to watch. And let's not forget in that Tewatia match, Nicholas Puran also pulled off that incredible boundary save. You know, like it just shows how how easily he moves. You know, he is, and I'm sure that lightness on his feet plays a part when he's coming down the track. Also, I don't know if I could say he would own it or not. I think it depends a little bit on how they structure their 11 because if once again there isn't enough batting depth after him, how much freedom does he get to go for owning it? So yeah, he has the. I would say yeah, he has the potential to own it, but let's wait and watch.
All right. So, what are your predictions then? Last year, they finished sixth, which was level on points with the two teams below them, the Chennai Super Kings and the Rajasthan Royals. They've changed their name to the Punjab Kings now. Is this their season, Saurabh?
Yeah, I think they should qualify for the playoffs.
They will qualify for the playoffs. Varun, do you agree?
Yeah, I have them qualifying for the playoffs.
Awesome. So, I think that basically you all are both putting it down to the increase in quality in their bowling, right? I think that's the simplest way of
And
putting
a
it.
Yeah.
little bit of depth added in the back end of their batting, you know, through like I said, Shah Rukh Khan and Fabian Allen if they pick him.
So this should be a one watch. Let's get in predictions because this podcast is going to go out just before both these teams' first matches of the season, Rajasthan versus Punjab. What are you looking forward to on Monday? You know the weekend is over. Probably the excitement of the IPL has just dulled that very little bit because there's nothing like the first weekend. You will never ever get to repeat that in any season whatsoever. So what are your predictions, Varun? We'll start with you for that first game on Monday.
I see Kings 11 scoring 200 and winning by about 50 runs.
Nice. That's a dominant win.
Yeah, I essentially that I see them coming out really energetic and being a little too much to handle for Rajasthan's bowling.
You know, I'm a bit disappointed with that prediction of Varun because I thought he has like given up hope on RCB, so he thought at least Shreyas Gopal from Karnataka will make it to the Indian team, and now he's saying they'll get thrashed by 50 runs. What will happen to poor Shreyas Gopal?
Yeah, but I think after listening to you all, after both the previews that we had, it looks like it's going to be a statement win and possibly a statement season for the Punjab Kings as well. Saurabh and Varun, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll of course hear from the both of you during the course of IPL 2021. Talk to you soon.